A brief about what I'm assessing of the hall is most of your young professionals who just started working or have been working less than 5 years and want to understand what AI is about or what cybersecurity is about. This is how a traditional enterprise looked like. You had the internet you connected to, you had a firewall, IDS, you have your VPNs, and you had all these devices enclosed in your enterprise and you connected to them. And how anybody would breach is an endpoint would get, so let's say an endpoint in your enterprise gets infected. Within your enterprise, it gets infected very quickly, and then you would have data going up. So this is the traditional attack surface that we're talking about, which was 10 years ago. If you look at the dynamicity in which the world has evolved, when I had a vision for cybersecurity, I thought e-commerce in the US in early 2000, 2002, it's going to explode and I'm going to conquer the whole world. There's going to be so much fraud in the e-commerce. Little did I know that cloud evolved after that. So you had on-prem cloud, and then I realized that governments have to move to cloud. Even today, the United States, which is one of the most advanced country you can call it, right? Only about 20 states out of the 50 states are on cloud. So you can see digitization hasn't even scratched the United States. So we're still in a very, very initial steps of digitization. And now that we talked about cloud, you're quickly talking about blockchains, which is done. Now you're talking about AI. You're talking about so much moving technology. So cybersecurity as a field is just beginning at this point. It was all science fiction back then, but now it is a reality. And I'm not going to go into those stories because you read them in media. I'm going to talk about the tech underlying and what it means to all of you. So this is another old slide I was telling. I always showed this. What I said was, anything that can be connected will be connected. That is what I said 10, 15 years ago. What today is, anything that can be connected is already connected. So your information, everyone's information is already in hundreds of places, whether you like it or not, whether it's legal or not legal, whether it is voluntary or involuntary. Just this morning, I got news that people who've been applying for UPSC, people who've been applying for becoming police law enforcement officers, all their information biometrics was leaked. So imagine what that would do from a privacy perspective. So the minute you go digital, anything and everything is all up. Certain countries have gone to an extent saying that, so what? Why should we even protect this data? Why not just make it public? So we don't have to invest in cybersecurity. We don't have to invest in all these technologies. Let's just make it public. What is wrong in that? So Finland, for example, they're saying everybody's salary should be transparent. Why even hide it? I can go Google in Finland, find what my neighbor is making. They want it transparent so they don't have to invest in cybersecurity. So it's a different school of thought, but anything that can be connected is already connected. I think you should approach the problem that way rather than will be connected. It's no longer relevant. So today's attack surface, all of you will be relating to this, right? Before it was traditional infrastructure on-prem, or it was an application or website that somebody would come from outside. But today, if you look at it, you have modern infrastructure, cloud workloads. You have API entry points. You have a pipeline infrastructure. You have so much of integrations that are happening from different, a B2B enterprise has partners connecting in. You can get POs, you can submit invoices, you're sending on emails, and you're talking about information sharing, management systems, data stores. You have 4 or 5 different clouds, you have data stores on them. So now you see the attack points or an entry point for a bad guy is 100x than what it was just 10 years ago. So quickly it's evolved. And how do you look at it when you add AI or ML at that point? Before in the past, it was just rule-based, and if-thens, and if this doesn't work, let's try that. That was the rule engine which bad guys use. But today now with open AI, and you're talking about freeware, you're talking about so many things. Bad guys have access to the same tools that all of us have today. So they're one step ahead always, and how do we catch up? It's always been catch up, but at least you do your homework and then you're at least safe from that perspective. I'm just setting the background so I can start talking what it means to you. So today, if you look at it, the exposure is anywhere from developer to runtime. Right when you're writing code, you can introduce vulnerabilities as a developer without your knowledge. You're importing certain libraries, you're importing certain packages, you don't know what is inside. So a new legislation is coming out, it's called software bill of materials. When you all go buy food, you look at how many carbs, protein, fats, you have that information, right? So the US government is going to mandate you say what software is in your software. What are the open sources using? What versions are you using? So the person who is buying your software is aware of what it is, software bill of materials. So as a developer, what packages are you using? You don't know what vulnerabilities that are in there. Log4j is a classic example. So that is a developer time you're introducing vulnerabilities, which is again public. If Microsoft is releasing a certain software with a certain versions, they're coming out and they release notes saying, these are the softwares I'm using. Bad guys have access to that. They're going to go look at that, what vulnerabilities are out there. And then that's how it's done. Next part is modern infrastructure. So if you look at the left side, there are standards on that. There are specific codes what developers should look at, CWEs, that is common weaknesses that you would introduce into your code base. So that's something what you have to follow like your Bible. As a developer, you should go and look at those things. You should take responsibility. You feel that the police or the cyber cell has a responsibility to you when you have, this is your responsibility as a developer to stick to what the code is required from a CW perspective. If you go to the middle part of it on modern infrastructure, you're talking about CPEs. There are so many SaaS products out there, so many platforms that are being sold. So they have vulnerabilities with combinations of software. So those CPEs are something that you have to triage with your CVEs and your CWEs and start understanding what platforms your software will be running on, what platforms your code will be running on, what is that combination. So those are the other things that you have to be worried about. There are technologies, mitigation, all of these things, but at the same time, as a responsible engineer, you have to make sure that these are the things what you focus on when you're writing code. Last but not least, after everything is said and done, when you go into runtime, that's when you get exposed. Better late than never. At least catch them when it's out there. So you do your periodic hygiene, right? As you're aging and growing, you go to your typical medical checkups. So you do your X-rays, CT scans, right? Just to make sure you're healthy, your vitals are good. So that is something what IT teams, developer teams should do on a periodic basis to check what is running. Is it up to date? Is it patched up? Or are there mitigation things that are out there? So there is a whole universe where it's a lot more than what CWEs and CPEs are. So the volume is high. And typically when you do something like this in your organization, you'll have hundreds and thousands of these. How do you prioritize that? What should you fix first? This is where you have to start applying AI. AI in cybersecurity or cybersecurity, and those are two different statements. AI in cybersecurity, I'm looking at how can you use AI in your enterprise or in your organization. And when you look at cybersecurity in AI, is how vulnerable are AI models? How can I hack an AI model? If you go back, let's say 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, if somebody came and said that, I'm going to hack an AI model, people would understand that AI is so intelligent, how can somebody go hack it? But yes, it is possible. Today, there are businesses built around that. So let's start with AI for cybersecurity. One of the challenges in any field, forget cybersecurity, is about triaging. How do you make sense of information that is out there? Whether it's medical field or a cybersecurity field, there is so much amount of data. Like I said, even the biometrics that was leaked today, or the enormous of data that Tesla collects, driving habits, insurance companies collect, medical. There's so much amount of data. People still use rule-based, or they still do certain classification, and they run some models and they infer it. But when you want to solve a problem from an AI perspective, triaging, what does a bad guy want to do? He wants to infiltrate. Again, going back to fundamentals, it's just fundamentals. Anybody would want to infiltrate, exfiltrate. That's all they want to do. They want to come in, steal, and leave. How do you do that? How do you triage that? Once I'm in, how am I getting in? How do I laterally move to find the keys to the kingdom? I ultimately want to go look at transactions, or I want to look at personal information, or I want to look at a database where there's financial information or intellectual property. So I have to laterally move in an organization, try to find those keys to the kingdom, and then how do I get out exfiltrate? So the modus is exactly the same. But to infiltrate, there are certain vulnerabilities that you use. So you have to know what those vulnerabilities are. Are those applicable in that environment? When I have to laterally move, I have to escalate my privileges. I might get in as a low-level user, but I quickly have to be a local admin or a super admin so that I can laterally move, access any system I want. And then once I'm successful on that, and then I have to get out. And when I'm doing this whole thing, I should not be detected by the IPS or IDS or whatever XDRs they have. I have to be under the radar. So I should be very stealthy. I should not be coming in, with full force in, trying, all the old tools, like trying all the 500,000 username passwords, then obviously they'll detect me. And then laterally move, I should make sure that I'm not moving very fast, slow. And if I have to exfiltrate, now let's say I have data worth of a terabyte, and I shouldn't be in a hurry, pull it out. I should be smart and pull that 1 terabyte out over 1 year, or maybe 5 weeks, which will be like normal traffic. And these are incidents that have happened. So how do you detect these things? If I'm stealing information over a period of 6 months, it will look like normal traffic. How can I catch all this? That's where AI comes into place. So from a practitioner perspective, what should you do? First thing is, I always tell, if you have a guy who fixes a BMW, have him go steal a Maruti, he'll not be able to do it. He can go steal a BMW. If you know how to build something, you can break that. A thief who can break safes in a bank will not be able to steal an automobile. He's very good at building those safes, so he can go break those things. So you have to learn. First thing is first principles. How do you code? And then when you code, how can you make that better using an AI model? Can you take large amounts of data, train a model, or at least create a model, and then use that automatically to do what you're doing? So that is how you use AI in any field. Specifically, if you ask me to cybersecurity, there are about 300,000 vulnerabilities today. There are experts who can triage and think, I need these set of vulnerabilities. If it is at OS level, these are the vulnerabilities for my application level, at a network level. I can use these, infiltrate, I can laterally move. Then these are the vulnerabilities for, there are only probably 10 different databases. Most popular databases are maybe 3 or 4. Just go understand all of that, and then I try these, and then I can. So this triaging is done by very few people in the world. But now with the power of AI, yes, bad guys do have an advantage. You can use that to your advantage and be more accurate than some other few thousand best hackers in the world. And you can start running models on those and doing that. So that is how it would help. If you move to compliance today is very manual, mundane, or a few SaaS products out there, right? You have checklists and you have logs, you check logs. When did the last time you do a backup? When did the last time make sure that the chain of command or the custody was all followed? These things can all be automated and used AI for. So from a practitioner perspective, these are all places where you can go look for AI in cybersecurity. This is very applicable to any field. You will not be surprised. I don't know how many of you saw the release of ChatGPT 4 Omni, which was out like 3 weeks ago. It's interactive and it has visualization. And if the camera is on, it can start reading the environment and giving you advice on what it is. So if you just quickly look at a video of Khan Academy, how he taught his son math, right? So that's been going viral. So with that, ChatGPT 4 Omni is going to change the world. It's going to be next year, you will not have music teachers, very sad. You may not have private tutors. These models will start tutoring children. These models will start teaching music. If all it needs is motivation. Culturally, we are used to have our teachers ask us, have you finished your homework? Did you study? If you're motivated from today onwards, you don't need anybody asking you. You have everything out there. You can automatically have a real person who's going to teach you. So there's a model. If you go onto that website, first thing is the guy installs Omni and he says, hey, can you read the room and tell me what are you going to do? AI says that it looks like a photo studio and I think you're going to make an announcement or you're going to do something. He said, yeah, exactly, I'm going to announce you to the world. So it can read the room and also tell what actually is going to happen. So if you all remember going back to cognitive detection and stuff, that will all be a reality in less than 5 years. If all of you are traditional developers here, I don't want it to be a rude shock to you. 3 years from now, you will not be writing code. Bots will be writing code. You have to very quickly understand how to use AI to write code for you, or how you can tweak the model to help write better code. Developers will be non-existent. I was in a meeting with high intense people yesterday from Infosys, among the top 5,000. They're worried about their business model. They're worried about if code is being written by bots within less than 5 years, what will happen to 100,000 plus people that they've employed, or 200,000 people they've employed? So they have to be very quick and adapting to what AI has got to offer. So if there are companies who are not taking on AI very aggressively in the next year and a half, too, from a research perspective, operationalizing it in the next year and a half, that is about 3 to 4 years from now, they will be really at the risk of losing a huge market share from a business perspective. So now coming to cybersecurity for AI. Like any new technology, AI is very new. All of us are figuring out how to use it. But at the same time, an AI can be poisoned, AI can be hacked, AI can be fed wrong data to give wrong results. So what is AI? It's, in a very rudimentary way, I have to say, right? It's natural language processing from a text perspective. Let's get into images, videos all later, right? So it has processed large amounts of text data, and it's using models, and it's making sense out of it, and it is having an interactive or producing an answer to you or giving you suggestions to you. So if you look at that, what if you feed an open LLM or an open model with the wrong amount of data, or bad or corrupt data, or illegal data, or if you're a crook and you want to feed it wrong information and put it in the public domain, it'll start giving you wrong information. So it's something that you have to really consider when you start using an open model. First of all, is it giving you valid information? So these are the places where you'll be involved. So upskill yourself to understand these models. Is it giving right information, or do some basic checks? For example, now let's say as an individual, if I come and ask you one question, you'll spend maybe 10 seconds, think about it, give me an answer. Now at the same time, if I come back and ask you 5 questions at one shot, and I say you have the same 10 seconds to answer, you'll not be able to give me an accurate answer for all 5. AI is similar to that. So if I go back and ask 5 questions sequentially at this point, it will come back and give me an accurate answer. But if I fire off those 5 questions in parallel and give the same 10-second limit, it takes only 10 or 15 seconds depending on the question. It will come back and not give you a relevant answer. So it is as good as how we want it to be. What I would say is AI is large amounts of data with added context to it. I won't say intelligence, added context to it. It is up to you to add what intelligence you add on to it. But it's very powerful, the amount of data. I just read an article saying that the models have processed all the text that's available in the world today. Any text that is out there, it's consumed it, it's digested it, and it's done. Now it's going after images and videos. It's probably another, few months. It would have consumed all the images and videos that are out there, and you'll start it'll be a different new world altogether. So from cybersecurity for AI, the biggest concern is data privacy. What this information that's leaked is fed to some AI model. Now their information is not only in public domain, it's with a lot of models, and all their fingerprint information, their images are all out there. So from a privacy perspective, now let's assume that you don't want to disclose your identity, where you're traveling, what you're doing, but it's already out there. It can match. So now Aadhaar database being leaked like a year ago, and now biometric information is leaked with PAN card details. You can quickly go, if you find a vulnerable bank or find a vulnerable financial institution, and if these individuals have accounts there, you can quickly change everything, and he won't even access to his account. This is not science fiction. This will be reality in the next 2 years. So privacy is another thing, but we have to be very concerned about from cybersecurity. And the best way to address this is, if you can start thinking what can go wrong, you'll find a solution. Because that's how you can solve this. You cannot go look at permutation and combination, go in an empirical way. Let's do all of these things. No, you have to work smart. That is the way I would look at it.